And good morning, beautiful people of the Center for Spiritual Living. As you heard from our announcements that Diane made this morning, this is the second week of our focus on the power of awareness. And last week we began by setting the tone through reading all of the affirmations that we've had this year. And they're the ones that are typically printed at the top of the announcement pages and the ones that we have up on the screen. And somebody mentioned to me last week how wonderful it was to read through the whole first 5 months of affirmations one by one in sequence in a mindful way, and what a deepening experience that was for him. And he asked me if there was some place where he could get them, and I said yes, indeed. If you navigate to our website, which is www.cslsr.org, you'll see one of the menu items is services, and underneath that is a listing of all of the affirmations, not only those that have passed, but the ones to come, including all of the reading assignments and the topics. So there is a comprehensive page for our whole year design that you can visit at any time at your convenience. So let us do it again this week and create a sense of awareness by mindfully reading the affirmations we've traveled through together. And I invite you to breathe in with me and exhale, and together. Whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are true, and whatsoever things are lovely, I think on these things so that they grow and increase in my own life. A breath in. Together. The real me, the inward I, is an inseparable part of the whole. It is through my recognition of this that the outer becomes as the inner, and my wholeness is revealed. A breath in. Together. I consciously take my place as the creator of my own world. I am the guardian of my own fate. I cooperate with Spirit in letting the ideas of wholeness flow through me with joyful expectancy. And a breath in. Together. I am conscious of the spirit of joy within me. I contemplate its eternal being within me, and I grow in likeness of its beautiful expression. And a breath in. Together. I abandon myself to the realization of my unity with the whole. I identify my mind with the spirit of wholeness. I am aware of my unity with all that is. And a breath again. So this gentleman commented to me that reading the affirmations like this, with the breath in between, allowed for nuances to emerge, to rise up, and meaning to become clear to him that he perhaps had missed before in just the saying of the affirmations during the service. And I said to him, yeah, well, that is the power of awareness. That would be the power of awareness. Because, well, look, awareness is a powerful thing when we have it. Right? And it's not that we can ever stop being aware. It's that we seem to have the talent or the skill or the habit of slipping into automatic mode. And that's the thing when you got home but you don't know what route you took. And that's the thing where you can do something without paying any attention to the details of doing it at all. And when it's done, you're not quite sure how it got done. You know, the book I wrote, The Power of Meditation, it might very well have been called The Power of Awareness, because it has so much to do with practices that I call being mindfully aware, or being awake on purpose, being present In contrast to, I didn't know that I'm here. Because I'm just doing things all the time. I'm always busy, achieving, attaining, reaching, wanting, conquering, earning, desiring. Whereas being awake on purpose or being mindfully aware, well, then I know that I'm aware because now I'm paying attention. So when I'm doing something, I'm observing the doing of it. I'm being present. And when I'm present, then I can notice what arises on the outside and on the inside. And so I miss fewer of the subtleties that are in every single moment, the details, the features that are present there, because I'm not rushing through to the end goal. I'm not fast forwarding all of the way to the end of the movie. I used to be like that. In fact, I used to be in a terrific rush for a good deal of my life. I was talking to a friend of mine about that and how I used to be in a rush, and he said to me, you know, Edward, there are some things in life you just can't do fast. You can't make love in a hurry. You can't savor fine food quickly or get what is available in an excellent wine fast. You can't meditate quickly. And so it is with awareness too. You can't rush it. You know, me, as a young man, I used to love reading. I still love reading, and I'm still a young man. I'm not really sure how to take that laughter. I think it's a compliment. All depends on my attitude, I suppose. Anyway, I used to rush home from school and even high school, get home for lunch or whatever it was, and I just would start reading right away. And I would have, my book and then my food plate there, and then I noticed I'd be dropping food on the book, and then I learned to put the book on the other place and the food there. But I was so engrossed in the reading that I would totally miss lunch. I missed lunch. I can say quite confidently that I have no idea what I ate between the ages of 12 and 18. I was too busy. I was reading. And if the story in the book was exciting, I would skip over all of the descriptive parts because I just wanted to know what happened to who, when, and how did it end. But it wasn't actually as satisfying as I thought it would be to just get to the end. And I really learned that often it is the case that true satisfaction is not so much in the outcome as it is in the actual journey. And I found that out when friends who read the same book would say to me, "Oh, didn't you love the part when she described the sunset?" And I'd say, "What? What sunset?" And so it is that I learned to go back and to read it again, read my favorite books again, more than one time. Because now I could go back and I didn't have to rush. Now I could savor every adjective. I could taste every scene and feel the turns of phrases. And so I learned to love literature by reading it. And it taught me something about life. I learned how to love life by living it every moment. Now, just to remember to do so is the power of awareness. I practice the same sort of thing today when I watch movies because I can't watch a good movie just one time. I have to watch it again. And then when I watch my good movie a second time, then I practice. I don't look at where I am expected to look on the screen. I look everywhere else. Unusual spots, the background scenes, the corner of the screens, what's happening, what's there, the outer. And you know, if you look at a movie like that, oh, you're going to see things. You're going to see things that weren't available before. You're going to see so much glitches in the continuity of the scenes, thrilling. You're going to see extras in the background acting as if they're doing things, and you can tell they're not. And then you're going to see the details, the beautiful care, the lovely details that the movie makers have given to creating the ambiance, to create a scene for us. Oh, it all comes to life. And that's the way of awareness. Awareness comes into full power when you and I learn these things. Don't always look where you're expected to look. Widen your gaze. Don't be how you're expected to be always. Surprise yourself. Don't go where you're predictably always going to go and supposed to go and have been raised to go and should go. Don't go there. Walk off your own beaten track, or the track that's been beaten down for you by whomever is doing the beating. Frequently step off of that track, and when you do, turn your awareness on. That book I wrote, The Power of Meditation, there are two parts of it that frequently people give me feedback on. And the one is the description of how to make a cup of tea as a meditation practice. Because it begins with the selection of the cup and the setting out of all of the equipment and the watching of the kettle from the time the heat is turned until the time it is boiling, and then to observe the steam, every detail of it, and to call that meditation. And the other one is the practice of listening to music for music's sake. In other words, you choose a piece of music and then you bring it into the spotlight of your awareness and listen to it entirely. And so many people have said to me, I'm amazed at how such a simple exercise would open such a world of sumptuousness. I said, yes, that's the power of awareness, the power of mindful awareness, the power of being awake on purpose is that it can draw so much more out of life than when it's not turned on. And when turned on, mindful awareness has the power to take the truly ordinary things in life and turn them into symphonies. And it's not only that, but there's more. The author of this little book we're reading together, The Power of Awareness, he says that it's not only that, it's also that the attitude with which you and I approach something in our awareness, that attitude has the power to turn the thing we are aware of into exactly what it is to us. Now we're talking about that thing. Wherever you go, there you are. And what arrives with you is the filter through which you observe the world, your attitude. And that attitude is what is creating the ambiance for your experience. So you brought your attitude into the room. And it just so happens that it is valid and true as attitudes go for you. And it just so happens that it's not the only available attitude. Just so happens. And it just so happens that whatever the attitude is that you have in your awareness, it is what is establishing how everything appears to you. Now that That's what he says. It's a big idea. So he quotes Blake. Of course he would. This is one of those quotes that just makes you go, whoa. What seems to be is to those to whom it seems to be. Right? There's the whole message right in that. We can go home, except that I've got more. And then he goes on to talk about Paul of Tarsus when he's interacting with the new church, the Romans. He's writing a letter to them because they're all getting all judgmental on each other. They're arguing about which food is permitted, what acts are permitted, what behavior is right and wrong, which food is clean and unclean, and they're getting all judgmental on each other. You know how spiritual communities can be. Not us. And he writes to them and says to them, you know, if anyone regards something as unclean, then for that person, it is unclean. And he goes on to say, so get your head out of the details and stop judging each other. That's my paraphrase. Because how you approach something, he instructs them, is exactly how it's going to appear for you. And surely, right at this point, you must be thinking of William Shakespeare. Right? And Hamlet, right? Act 2. When Hamlet is saying that Denmark is a prison to him. It's a prison, he says, and Rosencrantz says, we think not so. Meaning, not my Denmark's no prison to me. And Hamlet says, why then? 'Tis none to you. In other words, well, then it's not one to you. And then what follows is the famous phrase, this one. For, Hamlet says, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. All of this suggests some excellent exercises for us this week. Here's a project for you this week. So I'm going to try it, see if I can get through a week. Assume this week that everyone that you come in contact with is neutral. And it is you that has the ability with your attitude to make them good or bad. The way you imagine them and the story you tell about them is indeed what makes them appear the way that they are. Now, this is going to be very tricky if you've already made up your mind about them. But it's a good exercise. What's there to lose? Just assume that everything in your life is neither good or bad except your thinking makes it so. I mean, what's there to lose? Just imagine that. And if you can't change your mind about a person, well, then just try dropping your attitude for a little bit. I think it's possible. When I was a young man, I just could not take I did not like avocado. It was green for a start. And that texture and the taste, I did not like it at all. I liked it even less when it was recited to me how many vitamins, and I just did not like it. But in all that reading that I did, I read that taste is learned. That took me aback. How could it be so? I am naturally averse to avocado. But I read it in my beloved books. It's learned. You learn taste. I thought, well, if I learn taste, I can relearn it, I told myself. And I set for myself the task of liking avocado. And I sat with avocado, and I looked at it, and I said, my, look how green it is. Look at that lovely texture. And I would eat it. I would tell myself how delightful it was. Do you know I love avocado now? I really do. And I can't remember when it flipped over. But that is exactly when it started. I sat down and said to myself, if it's a learned attitude, I can learn a new one. I forget that little journey, and sometimes I pretend that I'm not able to change my attitude because it's convenient for me to stay exactly where I am. You know what I'm talking about? It's easier with an avocado than it is with a person sometimes, right? Oh, God is calling. Would you say I'm busy? I'm not taking that call. I crack myself up. Okay, but story time now, because there's a great story in here that illustrates this exact attitudinal adjustment thing. Here we go. One day, a costume designer described to me her difficulties in working with a prominent theatrical producer. She was convinced that he unjustly criticized and rejected her best work, and that often he was deliberately rude and unfair to her. Everybody's got one, right? Upon hearing her story, I explained that it was not the producer, but herself who was in need of a new attitude. I told her that only by assuming that the situation at work was already what she wanted it to be, could she prove that she could bring about the change she desired. Wow. Her employer was merely bearing witness, in other words, telling her by his behavior what her concept of him was. I suggested that it was quite probable that she was carrying on conversations with him in her mind, which were filled with criticism and recriminations. There was no doubt but that she was mentally arguing with the producer, for others only echo that which we whisper to them in secret. Ooh. I asked her if it was true that she talked to him mentally, and if so, what those conversations were like. She confessed that every morning on her way to the theater, she told him just what she thought of him in a way that she would never have dared address in person. The intensity and force of her mental arguments with him automatically established his behavior towards her. When she realized what she had been doing, she agreed to change her attitude and to assume that her job was highly satisfactory already and that her relationship with the producer was a very happy one. To this she agreed and said that before going to sleep at night she would, and also on the way to work and at other intervals during the day, she would imagine that she had been congratulated by her boss on a fine design, and that she in turn had thanked him for the praise. To her great delight, she soon discovered for herself that her own attitude was indeed the cause of all that befell her. The behavior of her employer miraculously reversed itself, his attitude echoing, as it always had done, that which she had assumed, now reflected her changed concept of him. What she did was, by the power of her imagination, her persistent assumption influenced his behavior and determined his attitude toward her. Now, that is the thing that you can only experience. Once you've heard the testimony, then you've got to go and try it out. I know for a fact that it's possible to imagine a new world. I know for a fact. I just wish I would remain aware of it and do it instead of walking around as if I'm powerless. You know, so strong is the group mind that we are powerless and subject to other people and other events, and I forget. And he follows it up by saying this: thus, we see it is not facts, but that which we create in our imagination, which shapes our lives. For most of the conflicts of the day are due to the want, to the need of a little imagination to cast the beam out of our own eye. Now he's referring with that phrase, cast the beam out of our own eyes, referring to the Bible again. He's talking about Matthew 7, in which there is once again dealing with the problem of being judgmental on each other. And then right there it says, by the same way that you judge other people, that's how you're going to be judged. With the exact same attitude that you judge other people, that's how you set it up to be judged. With the exact same measure that you mete out to the world, that's exactly how you're going to be measured up. And it says right there in the Bible, it says, why are you pointing to that little speck, that little splinter in your friend's eyes when you've got a 2x4 in yours? It says it right there in Matthew. It's 2x4. And it says, why don't you attend to that first? Why don't you get that plank out of your eye? And then you'll see it'll clean up your vision, and you'll be able to see that which you thought was a detrimental splinter is not what you thought it was. And then this book is filled up with little James, and then he says this one. Ooh. Yeah, listen to this one. It is the exact and literal-minded who live in a fictitious world. There's an invitation, huh? To be lenient with what things mean. Don't be so literal. To nurture the willingness to look for the other right answer. To develop a taste for multiple, simultaneous, contradictory truths. Because that's just how the world is. Just so happens. And most importantly, to adopt the attitude that this world is not fixed. It's subject to mind. If anything's fixed, it's the attitude in the mind. Thank God that's where things can change. I was just talking to a friend of mine, a woman who received an opportunity to make a terrific career advancement. She got this opportunity with big possibilities, and as she was gearing up to step into this new executive role with all this authority, there was this mounting stress, and it was impacting the available time she had with her family and how she had to telecommute and do all these things. It was getting more stressful and more stressful until finally she reached the tipping point, and she changed her mind and she turned it down and she stepped back from it. And she said to me afterwards, I am so relieved. Absolutely everything is different now. And I just have this new sense of how much I cherish my family. And actually, I've lost all this sense of needing to achieve the status that I thought I was going for. And I said, well, what changed? And she said, me, I changed. I changed my mind, and my whole experience of everything changed. She said, before I was suffering with the attitude that if I didn't do this, I would be a failure, and that opportunity wouldn't knock again. And because things were moving so fast in that direction, I lost traction with how deeply successful I already am in a simple and elegant way that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. She slowed down into reality. I loved that. I got something out of that. And it's something that I'm going to take with me this week when I experiment on the world. Beware of letting facts have total authority over your attitude, Edward. Right? And practice becoming mindfully aware, awake on purpose, of the changes that take place after you've changed your attitude. Because you start to notice that it gives them more fuel. And practice changing your attitude by using your imagination to see the world and the people and beings in it in just the way you would like it to be. Got nothing to lose. Now let's wrap that up by reading together the affirmations we started with together. Whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are true, and whatsoever things are lovely, I think on these things, so that they grow and increase in my own life. Together, the real me, the inward I, is an inseparable part of the whole. It is through my recognition of this that the outer becomes as the inner, and my wholeness is revealed. Together, I consciously take my place as the creator of my own world. I am the guardian of my own fate. I cooperate with Spirit in letting the ideas of wholeness flow through me with joyful expectancy. Together, I am conscious of the spirit of joy within me. I contemplate its eternal being within me, and I grow in likeness of its beautiful expression. Together, I abandon myself to the realization of my unity with the whole. I identify my mind with the spirit of wholeness. I am aware of my unity with all that is. And a breath in, followed by a sigh.